great presentation discussing the current state of private 5G, some of the challenges and a lot of the opportunities that this market will bring to the whole ecosystem.
Really interesting presentations this morning, including from Intel, Vodafone, AWS, how they're using the edge, including some of the use cases. And I presented myself as well, talking about some of the trends I'm seeing, including our latest edge services.
The market is still young, a lot of references to where the market is growing, but also many references to the fact that we are still in a kind of build-up and education phase in many markets out there.
Enterprise users and practitioners need to look at what's happening right now with this discussion around sentience and see that as not so much a, do we need to worry about AI, but a call to arms for doing AI right. So not just building a chatbot that looks like and feels like and talks like a person, but instead building a chatbot that is able to do the right thing at the right time in an ethical way.
Hardware is particularly key for AI. I mean, AI is a system and platform play, but behind that system and platform are all of the semiconductors and all of the components that enable that. The visual aspect doesn't happen without image sensors. Once you've got that information, that all needs to be processed through the processors. It has to be stored in memory, and it then has to be processed and sent out, and it's communicated through wireless technologies. All of those rely on a technology advancement for all of those semiconductor technologies and display capabilities.
For me, the key theme is about ethical AI, responsible AI. With AI, it's a very powerful technology. With that comes, serious ramifications if it's utilized poorly. And so it's about fairness and trustworthy AI. And I think you're seeing a lot more discussion about that at the show, making sure the technology is used in the right and appropriate way.
What we're learning here is that all these companies, what keeps them up at night is they are now actually operationalizing AI. And think about that, it's hard to do. There's not been a lot of precedents, right? So there's only pioneers. So there's no best practices. So what we're trying to do and work on is give them best practices, whether it's learning about what are the best KPIs, what are the best ways to staff, what are the best ways to approach data governance. All of these types of things are what we're working on here to give people.
They're absolutely not ready. Very few of them are, I should say. And the reason is because there's not a lot of awareness yet of what that ethical and responsible adoption and use of AI actually implies or means. Organizations don't necessarily understand that pretty much all artificial intelligence is biased, all machine learning is biased. That's just how the technology works. So that level of awareness is not yet there. And until you have it, AI literacy in place, you don't even know that you have a problem.
One thing that has to be noted, is very important, is that it is still very rare for AI to be used in clinical practice. The question about why that is interesting because it's really not to do with the technical ability to implement AI systems. We know how to do that. We also have plenty of data, which is what AI systems feed on and are based on. So it's a very complicated question about why we are not further than we are. And I think there's a lot of cultural inertia involved. So I think one thing that we need to do in this event and lots of other events is try and drive the agenda forward.
We've had great presentations from government stakeholders, vendors, practitioners, and adopters. And I think the main message to come out of the first day of the summit is that excitement is high, investment is strong, and we're on a very good path as an industry to achieving advantage in quantum computing by the end of the decade. And so this is particularly gratifying for me because Omdia has taken the opportunity to consolidate and extend the work we've been doing in market research covering quantum computing since 2018 and forming an entire quantum computing research program around that.
After 2 fantastic days at our conference, it's been amazing to see these key takeaways come together, and it really forms all around the topic of collaboration. We saw this throughout many sessions, through conversations happening on the floor. We saw analysts presenting on this topic of what's driving our industry forward around ethical AI, around regulation. And then we saw it at the end of the conference as well with President Zelensky in terms of bringing together the tech community to support Ukraine.